Welcome to Human School. I'm your host, Dr. Patil Armenian. After 4 years of college, 4 years of medical school, 4 years of residency, and 2 years of fellowship, I thought I was done. I did my time, got my degrees, and now I was just gonna live life. Well, think again. Some of my greatest schooling has come after my formal education was complete, and it keeps on coming. Join me at Human School, where we can learn together. I'm an emergency physician and medical toxicologist working at a large teaching hospital in California. I'm also a mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend. Whether you work in healthcare or not, you too lead a busy life. Together, let's work on how we can thrive in all of our real world roles. On this podcast, we'll dig deep into what it means to constantly learn and evolve, to be human. Every other week, I'll share some of my personal stories, interview inspiring people, and offer tools to help you learn more about yourself. Being on the front lines in the ER, you learn a lot about life and death. And though my philosophies were born in a busy emergency room, they can apply to anyone trying to live a joyful life here on Earth. Please listen, share, and subscribe to this podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Follow me on Instagram at Human School Podcast, and feel free to let me know what topics or guests you want to hear about. And if you like the podcast, don't forget to rate and review it. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Human School. Today, back on the pod by popular demand is my sister, Garin Hussenjian. Hi, Garin.
Hi, everyone. Hi, P.
Hi. So, last time you were on, we discussed our reactions to the podcast series called The Retrievals. And actually, a lot of you listened to it and had so many good comments. And I think until that podcast, so many people didn't even know that I had gone through a fertility process myself. So, today we're discussing the F word, F being fertility in this case. And really, all I know best is my own personal experiences. So, we're going to talk about my experience in that world.
That sounds awesome because there's so much that I still don't know and have had a lot of questions for you. So, can I start with one?
Fire away, G.
Okay. One of the things I always think about is how does someone wake up one day and think, I might have a fertility problem? So, for you, when was it that you and your husband were trying to conceive and then finally you thought there's something going on?
Yeah, so for me, until I met my husband, I actually didn't even know if I wanted to have kids, but I met the
Mhm.
right person. And so for that reason, I did want to have kids. So that's a whole topic unto itself. But my best friend was having a baby, and she was in labor, and I was in the hospital with her, actually. I,
Mm.
s- yeah, it was such an honor to be in the hospital with her while she was in labor. And at some point, I think through all the pain, she said it was so hard to get to this point. She was like, P, just start trying now. You don't know how long it's going to take for you to have a baby.
Mhm.
And actually, her baby was born. He was healthy and wonderful. And that was the day that I stopped taking birth control. I just listened to her advice and I said, okay, she's right. I'm going to stop taking birth control now and see what happens.
Wow, so that baby's birthday is the day you stopped taking birth control. I
Yeah.
love that. So then how long were you off birth control and trying?
For about a year, I was off birth control and we were trying and figuring out, when I was ovulating, doing those ovulation
Right.
test strips that you pee on. And I could see that I was ovulating based on those test strips, but nothing happened.
Okay. So it was like very serious. Every month I'm ovulating on these days. Let's go. Like it conceiving, can we just say that becomes very goal oriented versus like a romantic, intimate love making. It's more like, let's go. We're trying to have a baby. I just want to say like that's been my experience. And I don't think when you do pee on a test strip and you're like, I'm ovulating, it's not sexy time. You know what I
Yeah, tell me about it. It's like way to take all the fun out of this. Like, I
Yeah,
hate to say it, but
it's true.
it put so much pressure on it. And then
Yeah.
every time you get your period, it's like this total
Oh,
letdown.
yeah, very depressing. It's like you're you have this very disassociated relationship, and I say this for myself too, with your body. You're like, I don't know, am I pregnant? And then your period happens. It's like you're just waiting and watching.
Yeah, and meanwhile, I remember being in my early 20s and being excited when my period would come, like, yes,
L-
not pregnant, you know?
yes, yes. The whole role reversal of like, now we want to have a baby. All those years you're like, "Oh god, I better not get pregnant. I better not get pregnant." It's like ingrained in us. And then
Yeah.
finally like, "Oh no, now's the right time. You're married. You checked all those boxes. You better get pregnant. When are you going to get pregnant?"
Oh, yeah. Can we talk about how the minute you get married, everybody starts asking, when are you going to get pregnant?
It's
What if you don't
crazy.
even, what if you don't even want a baby? Like, that's totally
Oh,
acceptable.
in our Armenian culture, and I mean, I would say it seems like all grandparents across the board, future grandparents to be, like, are dying to have a grandchild. Yeah, what if you don't want to have a child? Like, forget it. That's not even what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So
Let's get back on track.
you guys tried in a very focused way. You tried for a year, and then you thought, okay, what was it? You had a
Well,
gut
and a
reaction?
year was actually it's a long time. So typically they say, "Oh, try 6 months or something." But we went a year and then I just thought, "Okay, I guess I'll talk to my doctor about it now." I think what it was I just didn't want to hear anybody telling me you have to do IVF or in vitro fertilization. And for some reason in the back of my mind, there was that thing of that's what's going to happen and I just didn't want it. At that time, it was not totally accepted, at least not among the people I knew. Very taboo. Miscarriages, taboo. Talking about fertility, taboo. And so I didn't know anybody except for certain, like, very close people that had had a miscarriage. I didn't know anybody except for like a couple close people that had been through the fertility process. And but also I knew that some of those people that were going through IVF, people were talking behind their backs. They were
Mhm.
acting like something was wrong with the
Yeah.
woman, even
Mhm.
though in certain cases it was the man's fault technically. It was like they were talking about the woman. And I just thought, I don't want anyone
Yeah.
talking behind my back thinking that I was flawed, imperfect, defective.
Right. Like, "Oh, guess what? She had to do IVF." By the way, I also didn't know how many people that I know, I found out later, that have had miscarriages. I would say that I feel like almost every female that I am close to or have been close to over the years, they have had at least one miscarriage. And that's something that we don't talk about, that a woman just bears that grief, that both physical and emotional challenge, and then they just move on. Move on. Let's try to have a baby now again. And these are very challenging times in a, young couple's life, where they are just focused on having a baby, the difficulties of conceiving, the miscarriages, keeping the morale up. It's very hard.
Very.
So then what did you and your husband do as a first step to kind of determine the fertility situation?
I went to my regular OBGYN doctor and she did some blood tests. We did a sperm count test. I did a test where, and I'm just going to use like normal English for this, not medicine language, but where
Mhm.
they inject dye into your uterus and through the tubes to see if there's any blockage in your fallopian tubes. All my test results looked great. And my husband's sperm count was very low, actually. And that's primarily because he's a pretty hardcore road cyclist. He was riding
Mm,
his bikes for hundreds of miles a week. And that's just a well known thing that if you ride your bike a lot, it's going to decrease your sperm count. And so that's kind of what we had to go by. And then my OB doctor recommended a few rounds of Clomid. Now, Clomid is a medication that you take, it's a pill medication that stimulates ovulation. And based on that, you do it with your cycle, and then you'll know, okay, on this day, I'm definitely ovulating. And so a lot of people have good success with that medication. I didn't.
right. How long did you take Clomid for?
I
Like two
tried it.
months,
I tried it for 3 rounds, 3 months.
3 months. Okay. And that did not work. That would have been like how long into the OBGYN conversation was that? Like right away prescribed Clomid and then you took it?
No, because it took time to do the blood tests and the other
Okay.
tests. So by the time you're in it, you're like a few months in. So now we're like another 6 months have passed. And just like time is passing.
Time. Time. These things don't happen or resolve instantly. It's like you're just wait and see. Try something, wait and see. So when the Clomid didn't work, what did you move on to try?
So then my OB doctor, she recommended that I see a reproductive endocrinologist. They're the obstetrician gynecologists who specialize in fertility, basically. Their job is to get you pregnant. That's it.
Mhm.
So she recommended that we see a specialist. And so that's what we did.
And was there a specialist in town that you went to? Now, because you live in Fresno.
Yeah, so I live in Fresno, California, and so there's one main office in town here.
Wow,
It's not like
very limited.
LA. Yeah, it's not like LA or San Francisco or any of the big cities where you have like so many different offices to choose from. We're pretty limited in our very high-end specialists in town.
Right. So it's like you were like one option and you took it because obviously that's what you had to do. And how was your experience there? What was some of the first things they tried to work on?
Yeah, and also just going back, I felt that with my work schedule, I work so many random shifts and random shift times that I didn't know what I was in for, and so I didn't even think travel was a possibility. It just didn't cross my mind at that time.
Do you mean like travel to LA, possibly where we live, to see other fertility experts? You
Exactly.
thought, I have to be in Fresno. My work is insane. I work crazy shifts. I can't also add travel into the equation because you're going to
Exactly.
be going to the clinic a lot. It's not like a teeth cleaning. You go once and then you're like done for 6 months.
Exactly. So just to put it in perspective,
Yeah.
you go and then they do more testing, and then let's say when it comes time for, the cycle where something is going to happen, where it's going to be IUI, which is intrauterine insemination, which is when they basically inject the sperm into your uterus directly, or actual in vitro fertilization, and we can get into what that whole process is. But whatever they're going to do, there you're going to have multiple ultrasounds leading up to that procedure. It's like sometimes you're going in for an ultrasound, then 2 days later going in for another ultrasound, because they want to see how your eggs are developing. And the way they do that is by looking at the follicles in your ovaries. And so it's pretty intense. I mean, you're physically in the office a lot. This isn't something that telemedicine can do.
Right. Before we get to your experience and what it was like, I want to just say, as your sister, and we're just two sisters. So this is it. This is the fam.
Yeah.
I didn't know really any of this that was going on. We're talking like a year of you trying, 6 months of just regular OBGYN attempts with Clomid, and then coming to this assessment that no, I do have to see a fertility expert. Okay. And then you went to that first appointment. I don't think I knew really about any of this. And why is that? Like, not to put you in the hot seat, but we do this, and I don't mean just you and I. Like, why is it that when the shit's hitting the fan and we're trying to assess something, and pardon my language on that, that we're actually trying to put puzzle pieces together, like we're not really sharing as things are happening.
I just felt like no one was going to understand.
Mhm.
You know what it is? I just felt like something was wrong with me and that I didn't feel like anyone could make me feel better, which is all wrong. Like, of course, that's not the case, but that's how I felt at the time. I'm not really sure. I think we just think, oh, I can just handle it by myself.
Yeah. I mean, I know that I've gone through stuff, not this same experience, and I kept things very close to the chest and just kind of internalized a lot until I was like, okay, I need to share this. Usually that's you. Usually you're my first other person I'm about to say something to that's been inside forever.
In the very beginning, I think like my husband was talking about it a little bit. And then someone said, well, what if it doesn't work? What if what if you don't get pregnant? And that just felt like a slap in the face. And obviously, that person meant well. They were like trying to troubleshoot things. And it's like, I don't need any troubleshooting right now. I want only total positivity and for the vibe to be like, this is going to work. You're going to get
Mhm.
pregnant. You're going to
Mhm.
have a baby. And I had no room in my mind for anybody else's doubt because I was already full of all of my own doubt. So I don't need your doubt creeping in. And so
Yeah.
I just felt like I don't want to risk talking to anybody else so that I can hear their opinions or
Yep.
their doubts because I'm good. I'm good with that. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's all I have.
Yep. I totally identify because when I had cancer, I didn't share it with anybody. And I also, of course, you, mom, but very few people in the beginning. And I did not want to know anybody's experience stories. People want to share things with you, like medically. Oh, this happened, this happened. I didn't want to know because sometimes ignorance is bliss, meaning like I don't want to have anyone's preconceived notions on me. And I can feel like you had the same like inclination, like do not share because then people start giving their own opinions, advice, comments, and it becomes like too much noise.
That's exactly what it is. Noise. It's too much noise.
So, when you guys went to the fertility clinic in Fresno, what was your experience there? How did that begin? How did a game plan get created?
It was really interesting because I felt very much like a game plan was handed to me.
Mm.
So, I was not necessarily involved in the creation of the game plan. And
Oh,
and the game plan was that we can try some intrauterine insemination and then that doesn't work, we're going to full on IVF.
can you explain the differences to us?
So IUI is intrauterine insemination, and that's when they give you medications to time your ovulation. So they know exactly when you're ovulating, and then at that time you go to the clinic and your partner donates sperm or you have donor sperm, and then they have like a little catheter that they put in your cervix into your uterus, and then they just directly inject or push that sperm into your uterus, hoping that the sperm will make it to your egg that's about to pop out, and then it will get fertilized and form an embryo, which then becomes a fetus, which then becomes the baby.
Did you do that? Did you do it that
Yeah,
kind?
we
Yeah.
did. I forget how many rounds now. Think at least 3 or 4 times we did that. And
And
remember,
so
each time you are injecting yourself with medications to make you ovulate to time. So you get very used to needles in this process.
And just to then clarify time again, this is happening once a month during your normal cycle of ovulation. So each try is another month.
Yes, everything is a month.
It's
Every
amazing.
try is
Like,
a month.
mhm,
And then
mhm.
sometimes you get tired. You're like, I'm going to take a month break. That's
Yeah.
another month that goes by. You live your life in series of months.
Do you feel and did you feel during that process like time is ticking? Like every month was
Every
what
second,
did you feel with the
I
timing?
felt I'm running out of time. Time is ticking. And when am I going to time out of this game? Looking back, like I wasn't that old at the
I was just
time.
going to ask you that. How old were you?
So when I was doing all this that we're talking about right now, by this point, I'm like 33, 34.
And just to put that in perspective, I had my first child at 36 and my second one at 39. So you were 33, 34, a couple of years younger than when I conceived and had a baby, which would be a great time.
Exactly. But
Like
I
it's,
just felt time is ticking.
yeah.
And you also get into this mode where it's like their goal is get you pregnant. And you're like, okay, I'm on this treadmill now.
Hmm. But what point was it like we're gonna try IVF?
So it was like after 3 or 4 rounds of that. And it wasn't, I don't mean that in a bad way. It was just like, they were like, this is what we do all the time. This is our
Right,
protocol. And I was like, great, you guys are the experts.
right.
You tell me.
And so this is
So,
all happening at Fresno still.
yeah.
Okay.
So then we move on to then doing IVF, which is in vitro fertilization. That's when they actually have you start medications at the start of your cycle. So, first day of your period, that's day one of the cycle. Then you're on this protocol of injections that will stimulate you to kind of make eggs and mature those eggs. And then you do a shot that makes you kind of know, they'll know when the eggs are going to be released at this exact time. And at that point, you're in kind of like an operating room, like a procedure room where they sedate you. So you're asleep, you don't know what's going on. And then
Hmm.
they go into your ovaries and suck out the eggs, basically. So that's called an egg retrieval. They're physically going in and getting eggs from your ovaries.
Yeah.
And then the current standard of care is that back in the day, they would just put the eggs in a dish with some sperm and see what got fertilized. Nowadays, they do intracytoplasmic sperm injection, which is where they will get sperm and inject it directly into an
Mm.
egg. And then that gives a much higher rate of the egg fertilizing and for an embryo to be formed. And so
Right.
they do that to all of the eggs that you have. And then they wait on day 3, they take a look, day 5, they take a look, and they see how many embryos you've made and what their quality is.
And so are they reaching out to you like by text or phone call to say,
Yes,
day 3, we looked? I mean, because you're just anticipating now.
you're just on pins and needles. So when you wake up, okay, so you get the egg retrieval, you wake up, and then immediately, like the doctor comes in and will be like, we got this many eggs. And you're like, yes.
Okay.
So you get a number, right? So for me, my number was always in the 30s. And that's a
Is that
lot of
good?
eggs.
That's a
That's a
lot.
lot. It's a lot of eggs. So some people, they'd be like, we got 2. And you're like,
Mm.
and at the end of the day, you just need one good one, right?
Right,
That's
right.
it. You just need one good one.
And I
So,
just want to pause to go back to our first PNG podcast together, where we talked about women who were in the egg retrieval process experiencing excruciating pain because they were not being medicated properly to manage pain. Did you experience pain during the procedure?
no, I had the best anesthesia. I was completely asleep. I don't remember
Great.
a thing. No, I had a wonderful anesthesia with propofol.
Mm.
And no, I don't remember anything. And that's the way I like it.
But then when you started to recover, were you having abdominal pain? I mean, is there something, right? Like your body just went through something.
Yes. So when I started recovering and waking up, I had bloating in my belly, I had cramping, and I was definitely in a lot of discomfort. And actually, in my case, that pain and discomfort lasted for a week. And I remember
Wow.
hearing that, like, oh, well, you can go back to work the next day. And thankfully, I always had scheduled myself off. And definitely the day after, or even the day after that, there's no way I would have been able to work a shift in the ER. Later at that time, I began doing more research, and I did, let them know a few times that, I feel a lot of pain. I'm still bloated. It's 7 days out. And they were like, oh no, it's fine. But they did get over 30 eggs. I forget the exact number. Maybe it was 34, 35. And that is actually too many. That's actually a lot. And there is an entity called ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome, which can happen during IVF, where it's just your ovaries get too stimulated and
Mhm.
can cause this like bloating, fluid in the belly. I knew I had fluid in the belly because I did end up going to work a few days later, and I
Mhm.
ultrasounded myself and I saw the fluid in my belly. So
Right.
so I knew that, you know what, I'm okay, but this isn't completely normal. And I think it was too much stimulation.
Did you do the research and come to that conclusion yourself?
Yes.
Did you share that with them, that you have ovarian hyperstimulation
I
syndrome?
did. So when I went back to the office, because you hear from them day 3, day 5. So they call you and they're like, "Hey, we have this many fertilized and this many have survived. This many made it to day 5. This is their quality." So I was getting numbers. And then day 5, you can do a fresh embryo transfer. So that is when whatever embryo you made, they put that back in you and see if it's going to take, if it's going to grab onto your uterus and start making a fetus.
Did you have that happen? Did you guys do that on day 5?
We did. We did. So I was
But
bloated,
you were
in
bloated and in
pain,
pain.
super
Yeah.
uncomfortable. Did
That is
That's what they
not
did. That
that
is what they
doesn't
did at
sound
that
like a
clinic.
right. That doesn't sound like the right environment for a new embryo to I mean that's not science what I'm saying. It's just like doesn't feel right. But
Yes. Well, at that time, a lot of the science was starting to point to that maybe frozen embryo transfers that would happen in your next cycle, maybe those were more successful, but the data wasn't totally showing that yet. And, everybody's different. And so they were saying that at their clinic, they had the best success when they did these fresh transfers, which is the ones you do just a few days after getting your egg retrieval. So, of course, I'm not the specialist, I'm not the expert. I went with that. And again, this is my first round.
just goes to show how much effort is put into each round. Like the days leading up to the retrievals, the days right after the retrievals. Is there going to be an embryo? If there is, then come back. We're going to inject you with it. It's like that is it. That's what you guys are doing for weeks.
Oh, it's like your job. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that right before you have to do your injection during a specific time, the last injection, which is an intramuscular injection. So that's like a big needle that just goes into your butt muscle. Okay.
Wow.
And I had a shift. So I was in the red zone of our ER, which is the busy area where the sickest of the sickest people come. And we had just finished working on a patient who was in cardiac arrest, which means dying.
Oh
Okay,
my
so we
gosh.
stabilize that person. And then I hear on the overhead, like stat medical 5 minutes out. But I had to do my shot at a specific time for the retrieval the next day. Like it couldn't be 20 minutes later or whatever. And so I
Mhm.
ran into the bathroom in the red zone. I like got that needle out. I injected myself in the butt, pulled my pants up, and then ran into the next room where my resident was getting ready to intubate the next patient that had just come in.
Oh my god. It's just so crazy.
Yeah, but you get
Like
so focused. You're like, all right,
yeah.
I can do
Yeah.
this. And nobody else knew. It was like this secret, like nobody else in the ER knows what I just did right now.
Yeah. I'm preparing my body for an egg retrieval tomorrow.
Yeah. I
So,
did tell 3 of my coworkers in the ER, 3 of my really good friends, because they were my actual like shift backup people. So on those days where I was like, okay, I got to go in for the retrieval or now I have to be on bed rest, because, once you get the embryo put in, you have to be on bed rest for 24 hours,
Mhm.
and you don't know what those days are. So you can't request those shifts off when your
Right.
schedule's made 9 months in advance. You have no idea. So these three women, so awesome. They picked up like all those shifts from me. So it was like our secret
It's
club
such a
of like
team effort,
team effort.
on so many levels, like to make a baby happen. How many retrievals did you do before you,
So
like, not just
I did one retrieval and then two transfers that were unsuccessful from that retrieval.
Mhm.
And then actually, I did a second retrieval at that clinic, but between the first and second, I naturally got pregnant.
Right. I remember that. What was that experience like? So you got pregnant. How did you find out you got pregnant?
So that was a couple of months where I was like, I need a break. It was like a few months or longer. I don't know how many months anymore it was, but I needed a break. And so we weren't trying, we weren't doing anything. I wasn't going to the clinic. And then my period just didn't come. So yeah, I peed on a stick and I was pregnant.
Wow.
And at that time, my husband had stopped riding his bike for a few months. We know later because we had it checked, but his sperm count had normalized.
Yeah, that made a big difference.
Yeah. I couldn't believe it, first of all.
Right.
And I was like, oh, wow, okay. And, you hear that a lot. They'll say, like, when you stop trying, it happens. And you're just like, oh, ha, ha. But it
Yeah.
happened. I was still a patient at the reproductive endocrinologist's office. So I went there first saying, I know it's a natural pregnancy, but you guys are kind of my doctors right now. So
Right.
here I am.
How many weeks pregnant were you when you found out? Like 4?
Well, if my period was late, probably like technically 5.
Yeah.
So then I went in for the first ultrasound. It was so early. You could see something was in my uterus, but it was very early. And then they were like, okay, come back at 7 weeks. So I went back
Mhm.
at 7 weeks, and then the doctor, and here's the thing, guys, like I know what an ultrasound looks like and I know how doctors speak. So I already saw, and he was taking too long to talk.
Yeah.
When a doctor takes too long, and I knew that he was looking for the heartbeat and he couldn't find it.
Yeah.
And then he said, there's no heartbeat. And by 7 weeks, you should have a strong heartbeat, like at least
Yeah.
120 beats per minute. And there was nothing. So it was
Oh,
dead or
the
unsuccessful.
worst.
Yeah.
And then weren't you guys planning a trip around that time? Like gonna go on a travel to Europe, I think?
The next day, we were
The
supposed to
next
be on a
day.
plane to go to Europe for 2 weeks.
And I know you went, but like how did you decide to do that? I mean, you must have just the worst. I can't even
Honestly, my heart's
process it
racing
now.
just talking about
I
this.
know, like I'm trying to not cry basically because we're recording a podcast like adults and I am like it's heart-wrenching. Like just to think
So,
about everything you've been through, it's crazy.
well, what was really awful was that, so, the doctor tells us that in the room, and I just like look at him and I remember I said, what am I supposed to do now?
Yeah.
And then he kind of just like didn't say anything and walked out of the room.
What?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Like, didn't say, okay, here are your options.
Right.
Because in my mind, I'm like, what's the next step? Is this thing just gonna stay inside of me until I bleed it
Naturally,
out? Like,
right.
what are my options? What's happening? So then remember my best friend who I was in the hospital with in labor?
Yep.
So I called her because I
Yeah.
was like, she's gonna know. She's gonna
Yeah.
know the answer. She's not a doctor, by the way. Okay, she's a
Right.
lawyer.
She's able to make fast decisions. She can think on her feet.
She can think on her feet. So I
Yeah.
called her just sobbing, sobbing.
Yeah.
And then she said, "Look, you got to call your regular OB doctor. Call them up right now." And I was actually really close with the midwife at my OB doctor's office. She's like, I still love her, just love her. She said, "Call their office, you like them, talk to them, and she said, ask if it's a possibility for you to get the medication that kind of helps you to expel out the dead embryo.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, because the other options in my head were, okay, so this will just stay inside until sometimes it takes weeks for your body to naturally
Mm.
get rid of it. And then sometimes people can get even sick from it because it's stayed in their body for so long.
Yeah.
There's always surgery, which is they manually go in and clean out your uterus.
Yep.
And I really didn't want to do that. I felt like I'd been through so many procedures already that I didn't want to go through another procedure if I didn't have to, and put my uterus through more trauma if I didn't totally have to. Of course, if I did, I understood.
Right.
So I did that. I got off the phone with her, and by the way, it was her basically yelling, "P, you better call them right now." And I was like, "Okay." So I
Yeah.
called them, and I immediately went in, and they were so awesome and so sweet. And the midwife and the doctor were like, "We've got you." They were like, "Okay, here are your options." And again, they described those three. They're like, "You can just give it time, or we can." The doctor was so amazing. He was like, "I'll take you to the OR right now if you want, and like
Oh,
get it out." He was amazing.
that's so nice.
And he said,
I mean, yeah.
or I'll give you the medication. And he said, "Go on your vacation." He said,
Yeah.
"This is very safe." And I was going to the Netherlands. I was going to Amsterdam. He said, "Just, this is very safe." He said, "You could fly. And then when you get there, take the medicine there so that
Mm,
nothing happens on your flight. And I'm giving you my cell phone number, and you call me anytime, as many times as you want."
that's so refreshing to hear because it's these interactions that save us emotionally, spiritually, and then obviously physically. But it's those good interactions versus the one where your other doctor just walked out of the room. What? You know?
Totally different interaction.
And so
And I
you
don't know,
did
should
go
I
on the trip.
And then should I just like say the kicker right now? I'm
Yeah.
just going to say it because in the end, that specific doctor, that guy, he delivered my baby.
The good guy?
Yeah, he
Your
physically,
OBGYN.
yeah, but that specific, he was like on the exact night it happened. And because I do have a kid in the end, he
Yes.
delivered my baby. That same
Oh,
guy.
full circle.
Yeah.
Full circle. So you went on the trip and you took the medication when you landed, like he said.
Yes.
And how long after the medication did you, I mean, you must have just been staying in the room until you went to the bathroom.
Well, the good news is we had a really beautiful Airbnb house on a canal in
Oh,
Amsterdam. So it wasn't
nice.
just a hotel room. So it was very comfortable. I was watching tons of British reality TV, which we all know
Which
is
you
my love
love.
language.
Yes.
My love language is, can you get me British reality TV at any location in the world? And my husband did that. So I was watching The Only Way is Essex or Towie and hanging out. And we were just trying to be as normal as possible, which was weird.
Right.
And then a few hours after the medication, I did start having a little bit of cramping and some bleeding. Kind of just felt like a regular period. And then I called my doctor. I gave him the update and he said, "Okay, great." He said, "Take a little bit more of the medication." I said, "Okay." And then woke up the next day. And then we decided to go on this ridiculous, I think, 40-mile bike ride in the
Wow.
outskirts of Amsterdam. It was not planned. I don't know what we were, but yeah. So meanwhile, I I was like, okay, I mean, we're just a bike ride away. So we go on this bike ride and then we got back from the bike ride and then that's when I, went to go pee and then I passed the little bit of
Oh,
tissue and I could tell it looked different from
yeah.
regular blood.
Yeah. And did you call your doctor again?
Well, I called my husband first and
Well,
I was just
yeah.
like crying and I was
Of
like,
course
"There it
you're crying.
is." And then we looked at it, and then I flushed it down the toilet.
Oh, pee. I mean,
And
we're
then I
not
called
even
my
talk
doctor.
yeah. Also, and I don't think we can get into this too much now, but our partners, our husbands are going through all this shit too. It's like they're the most helpless and yet most invested in the process of having a baby. And
Oh, yeah.
that's even the best case scenario. Like you get pregnant and during a pregnancy, like they are the most invested, yet the most helpless. They're so far from the experience.
Yeah,
Even though they're right there, they're right there, but they can't really do shit about it.
and then they feel terrible about that.
Of course they do. Yeah. I mean, that's like the sign of a good husband. They feel
Yeah.
terrible. Clearly, you rallied in Amsterdam. I think, didn't you guys do some baby shopping there?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
did.
you bought some things. Didn't you buy a bunting there that we've
Oh,
used for
yeah.
Cebu in the past, like
Yeah,
parties?
I did some baby shopping there,
Good.
and then just shopping in general, which always helps. So then
Yes.
a few days later, we went to Utrecht, another city in
Mhm.
the Netherlands where the Tour de France was coming through. And we are super into cycling. We are into all the grand tours, including the Tour de France, and we were hyped. So then afterwards, we went to Paris. So it was actually the best thing to not be at home, because if I was at home, I was going to be wallowing in my misery, just
Yeah.
sobbing every day. And you know what? It was just kind of nice to have my mind off it and just doing fun things. And we really just tried to like keep it light and keep it fun and not constantly think, oh, this means we're never going to have a baby.
Right. In fact, I think I was on a trip to Japan at some point during this time where you were not yet pregnant. And I also bought baby things for you, like
Yeah.
some cute towels. I was like, I'm getting this. P will have a baby, and we're going to get these towels if it's the last thing I do.
Like that Sanrio towel that we like
Yeah.
use now. Huh?
Yep. And the bath floor mat towel that you guys use, that was from Japan, that trip. And you
I
were not
forgot
pregnant.
that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
forgot
I
that.
was like, yeah, we're going to prepare for your future baby. It's happening.
One
Hmm.
of the other preparing things was that we bought a new house at that time. Unexpectedly, we got this property that I actually thought, oh, I don't think my baby wanted to come to the other house. I think this is
Yeah.
the right house. So I just felt like, oh, we're making the right environment now.
You're actually building the right nest. And I think that is very important for the mental and spiritual preparation for having a baby.
I think there's magic to a place, right? And
I agree.
so I just felt like the place has to exist for that person to come.
Exactly. I totally agree. And then what happened when you guys got back? You did not have a good experience with the Fresno clinic. Is that when you decided that's it?
I
I'm
went
making a
back.
change.
No, I went
Oh,
back to
you
that
did. Oh,
clinic.
you did go back. Okay. Wow. That's disappointing.
Yeah. Well,
But that
doctors
was your
aren't
only
the best
option.
patients. I still felt like it's my only option. So I went back. And that time, I did try to advocate for myself a little more. I said, look, I'm pretty sure I had ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. It was
Mhm.
too many eggs. The quality wasn't good. And can I go to lower doses? And so they actually were like, yeah, let's lower them as low as we feel comfortable, and let's try again. But really the same thing happened again. And again, I was barely even telling you and mom what was going on. I was just like, I'll just do another round. Meanwhile, let's not talk about the money and the expense. We're not even going to go there. But it's like, there
Is
goes
any of
another.
this uh-huh.
None of it's covered by insurance in
Right?
California.
None of
There
this
are
is covered
some
by
states
insurance.
where it is. We don't live in one of those states. And so So there goes another round. I got a few less eggs. I think I had like 3 embryos. We put 2 in as the first transfer, didn't take, 1 in as the next, and didn't take. So I was like, okay, I don't know what to do next. And at that time, my doctor, my reproductive endocrinologist, was basically like, I think your next step is either to get an egg donor or to adopt.
Wow. You did not share any of that with me while it was happening.
I think because it was so
It
traumatizing.
is traumatizing. It's traumatizing to talk about it now, and this is like 8 years later or so.
I am. I'm still traumatized. And I hate to say it, but the only people who truly understand are the ones who have also gone through this
Yeah.
fertility journey as well. So it's almost like this club, this club that you
Right.
get into. Yeah. And but I just felt like intuitively, I know my body and I just didn't agree. So first, our first main issue was my husband's sperm, which was now fixed, right?
Yes.
So that was that was one thing. The other thing that I haven't mentioned yet is that when I was 26, I had a ruptured appendix and I was so sick that they actually couldn't operate on me for a few days. So in that time, my whole abdomen had filled up with pus.
Oh my
And in my
gosh.
mind, I thought, why wouldn't I have scar tissue from that? So I always felt like I think I have scar tissue in there that also created problems earlier, which of course the IVF would solve. I also just felt like, I'm getting hyperstimulated. I made too many eggs again. I can't have a fresh transfer because I'm getting too bloated. I'm in too much pain. My body isn't going to accept anything. I also felt like it had to go with my own cycle. So at this clinic, they would have you on birth control pills so that your cycle started on the day they wanted your cycle to start on because of their clinic schedule. And
Wow,
so
what
I
irony.
yeah,
What
it's like how
irony.
patriarchal can we get, right? It's like
Yeah.
so that and then also my circadian rhythm is different than other people's. I work in the evenings. I always work 3 to 11, 4 to midnight. So I'm not on a daytime schedule like other people. And I had read a lot about personal circadian rhythms, cellular circadian rhythms,
Mhm.
and I
Mhm.
just felt like if anything, pretty sure these ovarian follicles have circadian rhythms and we need to follow that. It felt though that maybe I was crazy for thinking all these things and that maybe I was wrong, but I was messed up in the head. And
Yeah, but that's all part of your research. In the end, did you like really look into circadian rhythms for the positive effects that it would cause?
so I did a little bit, but really I learned more when I branched out and started fresh at a new clinic.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
at work, it's funny. We have certain rules, like if you're doing a procedure and you get it wrong, let's say the first time and the second time, or you got to like switch up what you're doing because you can't keep doing the same thing and expect that you're going to get a different result, right?
Right.
And so I thought, okay, I've done this same thing twice at the same clinic and I think we need to change things up. So I was like, I'm going to change it all up. We're going to invent this from the ground up.
Right.
So this is when I thought, okay, I want to start fresh. I'm going to rethink all this from the ground up and totally get a different mindset regarding this whole fertility thing.
Basically, fresh slate. We tried something twice, it didn't work. Fresh slate, new way, new approach.
Totally clean slate, totally new approach. And so that's what we're going to talk about in the next episode because
Oh, I can't wait.
I think you guys are going to like some of the things I'll say.
We know the story ends positively, so like, wow, let's go.
Yeah, we know this story has a happy ending.
Yes,
So
but
next
it's
time
a
we'll talk about what ended up working.
great. Can't wait to talk about it.
Well, thank you so much, Garin, for coming on the podcast again. And also, I'll see you next time.
See you later, P.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Please like, subscribe, share, and download the podcast. And again, you can find us at Human School Podcast on Instagram. I'd like to thank Dr. Zach Effron for the theme music. And I'd just like to make a general disclaimer that any of the institutions I work for, including Community Regional Medical Center, UCSF Fresno, and American Ambulance, have nothing to do with any of my thoughts or opinions. And so we'll kindly leave them out of this. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.